Wagwan everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to change an oil. Or in English, I'm not changing anything. Got it. To do an oil change on your own vehicle, you're going to need a couple of things. Obviously, you're going to need oil. You can refer to your owner's manual to find out what type of oil your vehicle takes. Secondly, you're going to need an oil filter. You can pick this up from your parts store, local parts store. I tend to use Advanced Auto Parts. O'Reilly's good too. You can give them the year, make, and model of your vehicle, and they should just bring you one. So, oil filter. Of course, you're going to need a couple of tools. A ratchet or wrench, and a socket that fits your oil drain plug. In my case, it's a 17mm. These can vary. Along with that tool, you might need an oil filter wrench. I most likely won't need this because I said man a strong man, you see. But this might come in handy depending on the vehicle and how difficult the oil filters to come off. Otherwise, there are certain types of special sockets for oil filters. Certain vehicles actually need those, so be aware. Next, you're going to need some protective gear. Gloves for your hands so the oil doesn't get on your skin and inside into your bloodstream. To hoist the vehicle, you're going to need a set of jack stands, or a set of ramps. You're also going to need something to clean off the oil when you're finished. Brake parts cleaner is what I use, or brake cleaner we call it, and shop towels. These work great together when you're trying to clean up a mess. One more thing, you're also going to need a drain bucket and a funnel. I'll be doing the oil change on my 98 Honda Accord. You might be saying, but Jay, I have one different car, boss. Not to worry, most things on vehicles have the same concept, so a lot of these things can carry over. One of those being oil changes. First thing we want to do is let the vehicle cool off. After the vehicle is cooled off for a good amount of time, that being 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour, then we're going to want to secure the vehicle. So put your vehicle in gear or in park and pull the e-brake all the way up. After putting the car in gear or in park and engaging the emergency brake, we will now use a block of wood or something to make sure that the car no roll back. In this case, I'm using a block of wood. This will prevent the vehicle from moving that way. It's now time to hoist the vehicle. After your vehicle is entirely secure, make sure it can't roll back at all. We're coming to the front of the vehicle, where, in my case, there is a jack point. There's a couple of jack points on these vehicles. Here's one on the subframe. We're going to use this to hoist the vehicle, or to raise the vehicle up. Not every vehicle has this. Some of them, it's just your plastic radiator support. Please do not jack there. If you break it, you're going to crush the radiator, and that is going to cost you. We're going to jack the vehicle high enough to where we can work under it. The wheels will be off the ground, and you'll have a significant amount of space and playroom to work. Now this is where the jack stands come into play. We're at the front right side of the vehicle now, and we'll take one jack stand. If you look underneath the vehicle, you'll find a jack point or a crimp weld. A lot of times it's denoted with an arrow or something that identifies it as its jack point. If not, you can use the frame as a hoist point. However, these are here for that reason. So we're going to raise our jack as high as it can go before it touches this. We will do the same on the other side. Next, we're going to come down nice and slow and release all of the weight onto the jack stands. Very slowly. Next, we're going to walk around the vehicle and make sure everything is how it's supposed to be. All the jack stands are secure and the crimp weld is sitting in the center of the jack stand's head. We check both sides. Both of them are where they're supposed to be. And this is kind of what I learned from my dad. He used to work at Ford. You give the vehicle this kind of shake just to make sure it's not going to collapse when you're under it. Because if you come down, you're done. You're dead. Alright. After securing the vehicle, we can get to the fun part, actually changing our oil. First thing you want to do is locate your engine oil filler cap. It is located on the valve cover of your engine, and remove it. Place it somewhere that you'll remember it. Now we're onto the car. We want to locate two things: our engine oil drain plug and our oil filter. Our engine oil drain plug will be on the oil pan of our engine. Here's the drain plug. If you look around, you will find your oil filter, which is that white cylinder. Now that we've located our oil filter and our drain plug, first thing I like to do is to remove the oil filter first. Normally, on Earth, things drain downwards. So I want to make a mess up here, and then wash everything down. So lefty loosey, righty tighty, or for you geniuses out there, counterclockwise, so that direction normally loosens things, and clockwise tightens it. Make sure you have the drain bucket directly under. To catch any oil. When the leaking oil slows to a drip, then you can take off the oil filter. You want to take it down where the open end is up towards the sky, so the rest of oil that's in there doesn't leak on you. Alright, so be careful. One thread at a time, and come down just like this. And then you can flip it upside down and pour out the rest. Now that the oil filter's off and all the oil has stopped draining, you want to clean off the mating surface where the oil filter housing and the oil filter O-ring will seat. So just wipe this off. You can use some brake cleaner, spray on your cloth, and go ahead and wipe that off. Make sure the surface is clean. Then, with your oil filter, what you'll want to do is, normally you would want to pour a little bit of oil inside of the filter. However, on my vehicle, the filter sits horizontally and not vertically, so it'll spill all over the place. And I don't normally do it on this vehicle. But aside from that, you want to put some fresh oil. You can't see that well, can you? You want to put some fresh oil around the base of the oil filter, right around the O-ring. This will help it seal onto the mating surface. So put it up. Make sure to catch it. Once it's caught, then it's able to spin on pretty easy. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, or to tighten it, you want to turn it clockwise. And you're just going to turn this until you can't turn it anymore. Do not over tighten this, because next time you're going to have tons of fun trying to get this off. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is one of the tools you can use to grab this when you want to take it off. Do not use this to tighten it. Alright, next, time to drain the oil. So we're going to reach for our ratchet or wrench, depending on what you have. Also, I'm going to use this ratchet instead, because most of you might have something like this. This will also help you to not over torque the drain bolt. Most of you won't have a torque wrench like I do, so I'm going to show you how you can do it at home. So again, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, counterclockwise to loosen this. Alright, I am not that strong. So we're going to use the longer one, more leverage to break that loose. Any wrench that you might have will probably be longer than this. So now just creep this out thread by thread. You can hold the drain pan up to the bolt like this and expect it to spew out because fluid dynamics. Very carefully. And when you feel it's about to slip, you can lift it up just like that and catch all of it, no mess. When this comes to a drip, you're going to want to replace your drain plug. Most times manufacturers call for these to be replaced entirely with a new part. So you're going to replace your drain bung. Make sure to catch it by hand first. Always. Wipe off any excess oil. And you're going to reach for your ratchet again, or wrench. Remember, we just loosened it, so we're going to have to change our direction to tighten. What I'm going to do first is tighten it just wrist tight, and then you can actually go to the bottom of your wrench or ratchet. It's best that you use a shorter one so that you're not multiplying the torque as your length increases by very much. So then just tighten it to where you can't turn anymore, not super tight, do not over torque it, and snap the bolt off in this. You're gonna have a field day if you do that. Finally, while we're under here, you just want to look around, make sure you don't see anything, any other oil leaks or anything. Of course, if you see stuff like that, you might want to take it to your local mechanic or professional. But otherwise, make sure all that you did is done correctly. So make sure that your oil filter is tightened again. You can't turn it further right, you're good. And make sure that the drain plug is tightened. And it's good. And now we're going to go back up top. Fill up time. Here's where your funnel comes in handy now. Put your funnel in the oil filler cap, or oil filler hole that's on your valve cover. Get your oil, the oil specified for your specific vehicle. You can refer to your owner's manual to find this information. Most times. Should be all the time, honestly. The owner's manual might even tell you the oil capacity. So these 2.3 motors normally take between 4 and 5 quarts. So a rule of thumb I normally follow is put in 4 quarts and then check it. So I'll walk you along the process. After adding those 4 quarts, we're going to take our oil funnel out, replace our cap. And now normally the vehicle would have been on the ground already. But then you're going to start the vehicle and let it run for about 20 seconds so that all the oil can circulate, go through the oil filter, and settle back down into the pan. But first we're going to drop the car down. So we could drop it. When lowering the vehicle, you want to do the exact opposite of how you got it up. So, since it's on the jack stands, we want to lift it up off of the jack stands. So put the jack in the same spot that you had jacked it up from. Jack it up far enough until your jack stands are away, completely free from your vehicle. Remove the jack stand on both sides. Actually, before we start the car, check your oil dipstick. Take it out, wipe it, then put it back in. Take it out, and you can check the level. If there's oil on the stick, there's 2 dots, 1 and 2, and it's right in between both dots. If there's oil on the stick, that's a good sign that you're almost there. Then wipe it off, replace the dipstick, and then start your vehicle. After letting the vehicle run for about 20 seconds, all the oil has circulated through the system, and let it settle for about a minute. If you're working on a Nissan, however, that's gonna have to sit for longer, 5, 6, 7 minutes before everything settles back into the pan. Then you check your oil level, so take it out, wipe it off, then put it back in. Take it out again, and you check your oil level. As you can see, or not, mine is in between the 2 marks, which is satisfactory, but where you really want it to be is at that second dot, right underneath it. So adjust accordingly. If it's down by the first dot, you need to add about 1 quart to get it up to the second dot. So I think you all can judge that yourself. Alright, and we're almost done. So you have 2 more things to do, very small things. You need to write yourself an oil change sticker that looks kind of like this. You get them when you go to get your oil change done. And you need to reset your oil change or maintenance light. You can get these oil change stickers from O'Reilly. That's where I normally get them. Otherwise, I'm not sure if other places sell them. But O'Reilly should give you one for free. Now, when I'm doing oil changes, I recommend that if you have standard or conventional oil that goes into your vehicle, you change that every 3,000 miles. And if you have synthetic, you change it every 5,000 miles. And that's how you're going to write your sticker. For example, my vehicle has, my display is messed up, but it's supposed to say 305,000. We'll just call it that. So, considering my vehicle takes conventional oil, I add 3,000 to that number. So 305,000 plus 3,000 is 308,000. And that's what I would write on this sticker as a reminder and put it here to tell me when I need to do the next oil change. And you would do this with 5,000 for your synthetic. And here's what I recommend doing with your oil reset light or the maintenance light. Go on YouTube and look it up. I don't store that information in my head. It just isn't something. There are many videos showing anything on each vehicle that you need to reset this. I don't store them in my head just because there are so many different procedures for different vehicles, but YouTube is your best friend in this case. And now we have a whole 5-quart pan of oil. Now you might be asking, Jay, we have this big something aisle. What am I to do with it? hopefully you emptied out the 5-quart jug that you had, and now we can transfer all the fluid into this and bring it down to the parts store for disposal. If not, hopefully you have an empty bottle lying around that you can put the oil into, or put the remaining oil that was in your jug into this, and then put the oil into your jug. So here's what you do. Pick this up, being very careful. Make sure that you are directly above it so you can see what's going on, and you pour all the oil into this, making sure to pay attention to the level it is inside of your jug and not to over fill it. Then you take that to the parts store and make them dispose of it. Boom! And with oh, congrats, you've learned how to do an oil change. Go back through the video if you need to refer to it as many times as you need until you can do it without looking at it. Great job. Welcome to the classroom. Alright, so these parts of the videos will be me on the whiteboard explaining theory, mathematics, engineering concepts there. And I didn't call you Siri. Growing up, I learned how to do things just by doing them, and I learned that they worked because when I did them, they worked. But I didn't understand the theory and stuff behind it, and I always wanted to know why. Why should I do this? Why does it work? And I went to school. I learned the theory of the concepts. I learned engineering principles and the mathematics behind all of that stuff. So I'm going to teach you all as simply as I can, and we'll even go into more complex things as we go on. So, first class, oil changes. Why should you do them? How frequently should you do them, and why? Let's do it. First up, we have lubrication. Oil's primary function is to lubricate the engine. My dad always used to say that the oil is a bearing for the bearing. What that does is it reduces the friction between parts on the inside of the engine. Take, for example, you have the crankshaft bearing and the crankshaft which spins inside of this bearing. In between there, obviously it's a bit exaggerated, in between there you have a thin layer of oil that coats both surfaces, and it acts as a bearing for the bearing, right? What that does is reduces friction so that your engine will not seize. As friction increases, obviously heat increases, and if metals get too hot and they're touching at the molecular level, they will fuse, and this is what happens a lot of the time when engines seize. Another function of the oil is to cool the internal parts of the engine. The engine gets very hot due to the 3 modes of heat transfer, which is conduction, convection, and radiation. All of these play a factor in heating up that engine. Conduction, as friction, as things are moving through the engine, you will produce heat. All these liquids for convection are moving through, or fluids, are moving through the engine and causing heat, though it might be minimal in the sense that I'm thinking, but it also produces some heat. And radiation through combustion. Combustion in the combustion chamber are little explosions. They create heat, and that heat radiates throughout the engine. Other than the coolant itself to keep the engine cool, the oil also helps in playing a role to cool down your engine. And as everything spins around and comes back down and settles back into the oil pan, it heats up and cools down as it goes back into the pan. You'll also see on some vehicles you have external oil coolers or heat exchangers. We'll run the oil outside of the engine, let it be cooled by convection through a heat exchanger, and then be brought back in so that it can be used effectively. Thirdly, your oil is to maximize your performance. If all of these are satisfactory, if your oil is in perfect condition, you will satisfy the conditions needed to give you the manufacturer specifications on horsepower, torque that the engine produces, fuel economy,
and the like. Like I said prior, every 3 to 5,000 miles you want to change the oil. The manufacturer may specify that you should change it every 10,000, but in practice, if you look at the oil, it's ridiculously black and dirty when you change it at that time. What happens is the oil begins to break down and lose its effectiveness, and that cannot satisfy these that I have here. It loses its lubricating power, it loses its cooling efficiency, and it loses its ability to satisfy the conditions to let your vehicle perform optimally. So that's that. And this was just a short class today, so I hope that this added some value to your life. Like, comment, and subscribe, you know it works. And give me some suggestions of what you all would want to learn. Thanks for watching. Yeah, bless. I'm out. Whoa!